Hey guys and gals, this is Alex with the KC Multifamily Minute here in Kansas City. Today is Monday, February 9th, 2026, and let's get right into it. As I talked about every single week, we got statistics for you. So first up, how many listings are out there on the MLS that's $500,000 plus that is built before 2021, kind of in the wheelhouse of what investors are looking for the most part. You can always dip down in there, but this gives you always a high level view of what I'm tracking every single week. So there's 68 listings out there. 53 are active, which means 15 are under contract. That's a big increase this year. Typically, towards the end of the year, there's a lot of closings that happened. A lot of that's for tax purposes, especially on these larger properties. Investors have tax needs one way or the other, or 1031 exchange, or personal goals, whatever the case may be. There is a flood of activity that happens towards the end of the year. And then January tends to slow down a little bit in terms of new listings right away. Now we're into February. It's already February 9th. So we've seen an uptick in listings, which means there's 53 out there for you to go out and get that are $500,000 plus. That's the MLS data. I got my website pulled up here for podcast listeners, legendarypartbrokers.com. Right now it shows there's 62 listings, but remember there's those 10 that are down there in Harrisonville that skew the data pretty big. So I've been excluding those for stats reasons. So that's everything on my website. And popping quickly over here to LoopNet. We're not going to take a ton of time on this, but there's no new listings over here. However, there are 34 listings out there. 28 are active, which means 6 are under contract. So again, that's been on the low side. Typically last year we saw in the low 30s for active available properties out there. So kind of lower on inventory in my opinion. But I do think it's a buyer's market because stuff is sitting out there for a very long time. A lot more negotiating that can happen. Creative ways to get deals done. I'm not talking about seller financing because that's kind of a rabbit hole that every investor wants to go down, but it's never very fruitful. I could do a whole series on how to be successful in that, but it is a much longer conversation. So anyway, let's get back on over to the MLS data. So my website, legendarypartners.com, and we can talk about how many new listings that are out here. So let's filter that down. So this is sorted by newest. Let's go in here and talk about 7 days on market. So everything that we didn't cover within the last week that are $500,000 plus. We have 3 new listings here. So let's hop right into these. These are, it shows that there's, another one up here, but these are all actually in the heart of Midtown. So let's zoom in here to Midtown. Podcast listeners, we're talking about south of the Crossroads, north of the Country Club Plaza. We got 3 listings in here. First up is this one for $575,000. I believe this is a duplex this is a fourplex on Charlotte in Beacon Hill. So $575,000 for a fourplex, classic colonnade style, very large unit. We got granite countertops, stainless steel appliances. I think this is actually a pretty good price per unit for this location. It's an older constructed building, obviously 100-year-old or so. But if you want to talk about it, you need a fourplex in Midtown. I think rents here, again, Class A location. You could probably, if these are all 2-bedroom, let's see here. Are they 2-bedroom? It doesn't say. That's the other thing, my pet peeve as well. But I think these are all 2-bedroom and washer and dryer in unit, at least some of them. You can top out $1,200, $1,300, maybe even $1,500, depending on how well you are and how good you are at leasing these. So that could be an interesting opportunity for somebody that's got $500,000, $600,000 for exchange and want to expand their portfolio in Midtown. Okay. So that's that one. Let's hop on over here. So there's a larger property here on Broadway, 3201 Broadway, of course, right in the heart of Midtown. $5.8 million for studios, 72 units. Price per unit on that is going to be, hang on a second, is going to be $80,500. So we'll call it $80,000 for simple math for 72 units. 3 different buildings here. It's a great price per unit if you can wrap your mind around the studio aspect. Some people don't like them. Some people are fine with them. There's pros and cons to every layout, but the good thing with studios is typically they don't cost very much to make ready. but you are going to have typically higher turnover. Looks like we got some washer and dryer in at least some of the units. So you've got your maximum rent there. These people, if you just make it affordable, I think you could get these really nice. It's going to depend on parking here, but again, this Class A location, 80,000 a unit. Even though for studios seems like a pretty solid deal. So if you've got 5.5, $6 million to spend for your 1031 exchange, or if you're an active real estate investor, reach out, talk more about that, and see how it might fit in for you. And then the last listing here is for $500,000. It's in Roanoke, which again, Midtown property close to the KU Med area off 39th Street. Triplex for $500,000. So you're talking about, well over 135,000 unit. Is that right? 500,000 divided by 3. Yeah, $166,000 per unit. This is a classic converted house style, which is common in Midtown. I actually own a style of property like this. So it's got a large main unit with 2 bedrooms and then a third floor efficiency that's either, some kind of converted rental you could use maybe as an office if you're that kind of creative type, or, of course, the World Cup's coming up. So you can use that. I think on the surface, it's fine. The numbers are fine. It just depends on you and your style and what you can get for rents over here, if this can work for you, or you can live in one unit and rent out the other too as well. So several new opportunities this week to look at here in the Kansas City market. And then let's talk a little bit about statistics like I talked about last week. So I've got the year to date numbers pulled up compared to the past 4 or 5 years, and how things really kind of compare. Of course, we're very early into the year. We only have January numbers. But looking at this chart here, this green color, darker green color, turquoise teal deal is going to be your 2026 numbers. Of course, we're talking about hardly any data. 1 or 2 or 3 closings could really skew that. But again, this is $500,000 plus, only the 7 counties of the Kansas City metro. January was a much lower closing month than the year prior, but in line with the 2 prior years to that. So, it's not a gangbuster type year, at least so far. And of course, we're, again, only 9 days into February, but no closings yet in 2026 for February. So just give you a high level overview. Closings are definitely happening. But again, like I said, my theory, stuff sitting out there longer. Great time to look at the numbers, buy, negotiate, put in offers, keep your process going. Rates are maybe 6.25 at your commercial lenders. Reach out. If you want to get active in the Kansas City market, you got a 1031 exchange you want to talk about, give me a call, send me a text, Alex at legendaryapartmentbrokers.com. That's Alex at legendaryapartmentbrokers.com. We'll talk soon.